10.16.20 more stimulating talk. The Dark Secret Place Brian sits in here live until midnight. So there are several pretty hot irons in the fire tonight. One of them is the situation off of Yemen, threatening to draw the United States directly into a conflict that the Saudis have been shouldering most of the burden for the past 2 years. And a Iranian-supported Houthi militia that overthrew a U.S.-friendly government. The Hadi government invited the U.S. to forward deploy special forces guys on the ground in Yemen, drones, etc. We'll get to that. And then also ISIS days in Iraq appear to be numbered, and they seem to know it because U.S. Army artillery is physically deployed in Iraq, and this is the heavy stuff, by the way. The Marine Corps doesn't have what are called self-propelled artillery pieces. They like towing everything. And the U.S. Army, however, likes the artillery to be able to keep up with the tanks, and so we have the U.S. Army has self-propelled artillery that, if a layman looked at it, you would say that's a tank, but it's actually an artillery piece. And the piece that we have is called the Paladin, the M109 Alpha 6 variant, and of which I'm familiar. And so these take quite a bit of effort, a lot of major muscle movement to deploy them from hither to yon. So these came from Germany, and they have been in northern Iraq for a couple weeks now. They were actually, I hear, flown into Turkey, and then they were trucked into Erbil in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq. Well, they're now deployed and they're shooting. They're firing missions into Mosul. There are ISIS targets. The ISIS are not very good at being an actual defensive military. And anyone who knows anything knew this 2 years ago and 3 years ago that they were beating the bushes forward, making the Iraqis or the Syrians flee or whatever. But ISIS are not soldiers. They're not disciplined. They're not trained. They don't have indoctrination, and they don't have they don't have doctrine. And so when it comes to actually defending a piece of ground, they're really new to this. And so it's a pretty easy matter to find where they have set up barricades or bunkers or trenches or whatever, and that's what the U.S. Army is hitting for the Kurds. The Kurds are denying that they've already started their offensive into Mosul. The Iraqis, the Baghdad government, has been adamant that nobody but them are going to liberate Mosul. The Kurds have a bit of a different opinion here because they're still playing by the if we take it, we keep it rules. And Mosul was taken from them by Saddam 40 years ago. And Arabs were physically transplanted into Mosul. It's not naturally, historically, an Arab place. And so the Kurds have a tremendous incentive to jump the gun and begin the liberation of Mosul, taking Mosul, and keeping it. And who's behind them? Well, Turkey's behind them. Is the U.S. behind the Kurds? Well, no, we're not. We're officially still defending the Iraqi government. We want Iraq to stay together as a country. The Kurds disagree. But we have begun the shelling of Mosul, so the ground offensive to take Mosul is probably days, not weeks, but days away. If past is prologue, then we see the way that the Iraqi army took Fallujah and Ramadi, and then Saddam's hometown, is that usually there were several days of airstrikes and artillery, and et cetera, and not weeks, but 3, 4, 5 days at the most. So probably by next Saturday we'll be talking about a ground battle in Mosul. Meanwhile, in Syria, and so this is why, if you're the ISIS crisis team, this is a bad couple of days for you, because in Syria, and then there's a little bit of background here, but in Syria, the Turks and the Free Syrian Army are about to take the city of Dabiq, D-A-B-I-Q. Dabiq, as you know, of course, is ISIS English language propaganda magazine and website. Al-Qaeda has Inspire, but ISIS has a magazine called Dabiq. Why Dabiq? What's so big about Dabiq? Well, in Quran, just like most religions have a end days prophecy, right? Christianity does. In Islam's end days prophecy, the final battle between the faithful and what they call the Romans, the infidels, the non-Muslims, the final battle will take place in Dabiq, according to Quran, right? This is not debatable because, as I told you before, Quran is dictation. Quran is the word of God. Quran says that the final battle will be between the Romans and the faithful in Dabiq. But the faithful have to be possessing Dabiq. And in the prophecy, they will be defeated, and then 2,000 survivors will go to Jerusalem, or Quds in Arabic, where they will do the final battle with the devil. And Jesus, who is the second most important prophet of Islam, will kill the devil with a spear. Again, not a stick, not a rock, not a pointy object, but with a spear. Okay, it's really specific. So you live by the sword, you die by the sword. If you're not able, if you have to take your holy text literally, then it's going to be quite a blow to the morale of ISIS when the Free Syrian Army takes Dabiq, because they're fighting in there right now, and ISIS are hauling ass. You would think if ISIS really believed in this stuff, they would be pouring into the place, because this is the great final battle, right? They're actually fleeing. And also some of their families are showing up in Turkey. So ISIS is pretty much on the run, which means that one side in the Syrian civil war is succeeding pretty well. And that would be the Russian, Iranian, Syrian side. And so evidently, because it's all one war, the Iranians are feeling puffed up. And they want to humiliate the United States off of Yemen by sinking a ship. And so we'll turn our attention to the other front. In what is currently, if you're unaware of this, there is a regional war. It's been going on for 2 years. It hit turbocharge when the Russians put troops in Syria a year ago. And we're apparently the one party that's unaware that we're part of a large regional war. We'll be back right after this. The Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits back in a second on KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk. Michael Chappé with the news.
Authorities say 4 people have been killed, 9 injured after a pickup truck plunged off the San Diego Coronado Bridge. Authorities say the truck plowed into a crowd at about 3:30 this afternoon.